Hey, this is Tony with Salt Strong, and in this video I wanted to talk about what size mono you should be using as backing when you're filling up your spools with braided line. Now, this was a popular question I had on a recent video I did on, how to actually put the backing on and also the braid. If you want to check out that video, you can check out the link below. But in this video, I'm going to be talking about what size mono you should be using. So what it really comes down to, you have to, consider what's going to happen to your braid after you put it over the mono. So that is why I like to go with light mono. Anything about 8, 10, maybe 12 pounds, but 8 to 10 pound mono is going to be best, because if you've ever had issues with your braid being uneven on your spool, or you notice it's really lumpy when you put it onto your spool after you put the backing on, it's because your mono is probably too thick. If the mono is too thick, the braid obviously is thinner than the mono, so the braid is going to sort of work its way into the grooves in between the individual strands of mono as it's spooled onto your spool there. So again, go with light mono. 8 to 10 pound is ideal because your line will lay nice and smoothly when it has something smooth to lay on. Now, I've recommended this to a lot of people, and their biggest concern is, okay, well, what happens if a fish gets me down to my backing? You really shouldn't have that issue when you are fishing inshore. You really should never see that backing. What I like to do is put at least 150 yards of braid on my spool, and that gives plenty enough room to put enough backing on there. That backing isn't for fighting the fish, it's for holding that braid onto your spool securely so that it doesn't spin freely. If you tie braid directly to a bare spool, it's going to spin on there freely, almost like if you have the drag tube loose, but it's not going to be pulling drag. It's just that entire spool of braid is just going to spin because there's nothing for that braid to hold on to because it's so slick. And the best way to avoid having a fish fight you down to that backing is to make sure you're using the proper gear for the type of fishing you're doing. If I'm going after 80 to 100 pound tarpon, I'm not going to be going after them with a 2500 or 3000 size spinning reel. I'm going to bump it up to a 5 or 6000 size reel that will hold more braid, but I can still have some backing on there to hold that braid on. And also, if you're fishing in an area where there are bigger fish around and you may run the risk of catching a bigger fish, definitely go with a bigger spinning reel. So if you're fishing inshore, let's say you're typically going after slot size redfish and trout, but there may be some bigger bull redfish around, you may want to bring a size 4000 spinning reel with you that holds a bit more line on there. Now, one last thing, if you use too heavy of a mono when you do have your backing on there, when you go to tie your mono to your braid, because that mono is a lot thicker, it's going to leave a very large bump because of the very large knot that's going to be formed because of the thicker mono. And that will cause your line to lay unevenly. Also, that knot will stick out a good ways, and if you do get close to getting to that backing, the line's going to catch on that knot, and that will just run the risk of breaking that fish off before you even get to the backing. But like I said before, you really should never be getting down to that backing. That bigger knot is just going to cause a lot of issues when it comes to your line laying evenly on your spool. So hopefully this will help you out if you are trying to figure out what size mono you should be using as backing on your spinning reels. Again, 8 or 10 pound will be best. You really should never be fighting a fish down to that backing, and just make sure you're using the appropriate size gear for whatever type of fishing you're doing.
If you are new to Salt Strong, we are the largest online fishing club for saltwater anglers, and we guarantee you two things. Number one, you'll start catching more fish in less time. And number two, you will save a ton of money on your favorite tackle and gear with discounts available exclusively for our members. To learn more, go to saltstrong.com and we'll see you there.
There's something about the water that'll give you peace, all by yourself or with your family. Live Salt Strong and wear the line today.